All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started having a seat on our mat today. Just finding that comfortable seat, legs crossed, legs out, feet flat, whatever works for you. And let the hands just come into the lap and start to close the eyes. And start to take those deep inhales and exhales. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Feeling the breath move in through the body, filling all the spaces in those lungs. And then feeling it leave the body with each exhale. Starting to take this time to just focus on that breath, to see how it makes us feel. Also, letting that day go. Starting to bring ourselves into our rooms and onto our mats. Taking those few minutes right here to just focus on that breath. And we'll let those hands come down by the sides. If you want to keep the eyes closed, you can continue to have them closed. Or maybe just kind of start to slowly open them. And we'll inhale, bring those arms up. And exhale, start to twist over to that left, bringing those arms down, letting them come down onto the knee. And then bringing that gaze as far over that back shoulder as is comfortable. Just waking up that back, waking up that spine. And taking those deep breaths here. And on our next inhale, we'll start to bring ourselves back forward, bringing both arms back up. As we exhale, twisting over to that right side, letting those arms come down. And again, bringing that gaze over that back shoulder just as far as is comfortable. And taking those deep breaths. And on that next inhale, bringing yourselves back forward, lifting those arms back up. And on that next exhale, taking that left hand down onto the mat and just tilting over that left side. Feeling all the spaces in those ribs opening up, stretching out. Taking a couple more deep breaths. And on that next inhale, pushing ourselves back up, bringing that left arm up. As we exhale, drop that right hand down and tilting over that right side. Again, feeling all those spaces in those ribs just opening up, stretching out, and sending the breath into all those spaces. And on that next inhale, bringing ourselves back up, lifting that right arm up. Exhale, drop both hands down. We're going to make our way up onto our hands and our knees. Taking a second here to make sure those wrists are right under those shoulders. Those knees are right under those hips and feet tops are flat on the floor behind us. As we inhale, we're going to drop that belly down, bring that gaze up towards the sky. Exhale, roll that spine, tuck that chin to the chest. Inhale, drop that belly down, bring that gaze up. And exhale, roll that spine, tuck that chin. Inhale, dropping that belly down, bringing that gaze up. Exhale, roll that spine. Inhale, dropping the belly down, gaze up. And exhale, roll the spine. Doing it one more time. Inhale, dropping that belly down, gaze up. And exhale, roll the spine. On that next inhale, just coming to that neutral spine. And we're going to take the right shoulder and just kind of start to twist it towards that left hip. And then twist over to that other side, taking that left shoulder to that left hip. And then coming back center. And we'll tuck those toes behind us and lift the hips up towards the sky. Coming into a down dog. Take a moment to pedal those feet out, stretching out the backs of those legs. Taking our time, moving back and forth. Maybe holding one side and then switching to that other side. And then letting those legs come into stillness. Taking a deep inhale and exhale. And on our next inhale, walking the feet up to the hands. Folding ourselves over those legs with a bend in those knees. And on our next inhale, rolling ourselves all the way up. Stacking each vertebrae. And then bring those arms up, gaze up towards those thumbs. Exhale the arms down. We'll inhale, bring the arms up, bring that gaze up towards those thumbs. Exhale, swan dive forward over those legs. Inhale, half lift, sliding those hands right under those knees. Exhale, folding back down. On the next inhale, step the feet back to a high plank or dropping onto the knees. Exhale, come all the way down onto our mat. Untucking those toes. Inhale, just lifting that chest. Exhale down. Inhale, push back to that down dog. Taking that breath here. On the next inhale, walk the feet up to the hands. Folding over those legs. And inhale all the way up. Bringing those arms. Exhale the hands down. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, swan dive over those legs. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, step back to that high plank or onto those knees. Exhaling all the way down. Untuck those toes. And inhale, lift that chest. Exhale down. Inhale, push back to down dog. Take that breath. On our next inhale, walk the feet up to the hands. Folding over those legs. And inhale all the way up. Bringing those arms. Exhaling them down. Inhale those arms up. Exhale, swan dive over the legs. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, step back to that high plank or onto those knees. Exhaling all the way down. Untucking the toes. Inhale, lifting just that chest. Exhale down. Inhale, push back to down dog. Taking a breath here. On the next inhale, walk the feet up to the hands. Folding over those legs. And inhale all the way up. Exhale the arms down. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, swan dive over those legs. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. On this next inhale, we're going to take the right leg, stepping it back to a long lunge, dropping onto that knee, untucking that toe. As we inhale, sweep those arms up. Exhale, fold back over that leg. Inhale, step that left leg back to a high plank or onto the knees. Exhale, come all the way onto the mat. Untuck those toes. Inhale, lift that chest. Exhale down. Inhale, back to down dog. On the next inhale, lift that right leg up. As we exhale, sweep that foot down between the thumbs. Dropping on that back knee, untucking the toes. Inhale, sweeping those arms up. Exhale, folding back over that front leg. Tucking those toes, popping up. Inhale, step that left foot forward. Folding over the legs. And inhale all the way up. Exhale the arms down. We'll inhale the arms up. Exhale, swan dive over the legs. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, this time stepping the left leg back to that long lunge. Dropping down onto that back knee, untucking that toe. Inhale, sweep those arms up. Exhale, fold over that front leg. We'll tuck that toe behind us and step that right foot back to that high plank or onto those knees. Exhale all the way down. Inhale, lifting just that chest. Exhale down. Inhale back to down dog. On our next inhale, lifting that left leg up. As we exhale, sweeping that leg forward, dropping it between those thumbs. Dropping on that back knee, untucking the toes. Inhale, sweeping those arms up. Exhale, fold back over that front leg. Inhale, tuck those toes. Step that foot forward, folding over those legs. And inhale, come all the way up. Exhale the arms down. And release those hands down by the sides, opening those palms up nice and wide. We'll close the eyes and take a couple deep breaths. Use this moment to refocus on the breath. Trying to catch it if we've lost it. And we'll open those eyes back up. We'll take the hands, we'll place them on those hips. And take the left foot back, stepping it back to a high lunge. So we want to make sure those feet are on those railroad tracks so they're not directly behind each other, nice and parallel. That front knee is over that ankle. And those hips are facing nice and forward. So when we feel steady, we'll inhale, bring the arms up, placing those palms together. And exhale, just bringing those hands down over the heart. And we'll just hold it here for a couple breaths. And taking a few deep breaths. And on that next inhale, we'll bring those hands back up, separating them. And exhale, bring the arms down, placing them back onto those hips. Taking that back foot and rotating it just slightly. So we're stepping down onto that back heel and those toes are kind of pointed off to a little bit of an angle. If it's too much on the knee, you can rotate that foot so it's parallel with the mat. If we want, we can shorten the stance a little bit or widen it, whatever's comfortable. Putting that bend back into that front knee, making sure those hips are facing forward once again. And inhale, bring those arms up. And hold it here for a couple breaths. On our next exhale, we're going to take the left hand, dropping it down onto that back thigh, and then kind of angling that right arm. So we're kind of twisting a little bit in that torso and bringing that gaze up towards the sky, adding a little bit of a back bend. So we're engaging those abs, helping that lower back out. If it's too much to have the back bend, we can just bring ourselves straight up and down with that left hand still resting on that back thigh. And take a few deep breaths. On that next inhale, sliding ourselves straight up and lifting that left arm back up, straightening that back nice and forward. And as we exhale, we're going to start to come over that front leg, so twisting that back foot up so you're up on those toes. We're going to take that right knee, so putting weight into those hands. If we can, start to pick up that foot and just drop that knee down onto the mat. And then kind of sliding that left leg back, dropping onto that knee. So we're gonna kind of do a different version of our pigeon pose. Normally we go down to stretch that hip up. So we can stay right here in the pose, feeling that hip pull, or not pull, stretch out in that right hip. Again, we want to keep those hips nice and even, so we don't want to roll down. So if we need to put a block, a pillow, anything under that hip, we can keep that there. So we can stay here, or we can start to lift that back foot up off the floor. And we can just experiment right here. Or we can take that left hand, reach it around behind. Take a hold of that left foot. So you want the toes kind of in the wrist and the fingers pointing down towards that ankle. So if you bend that elbow, it's going to be going straight up towards the sky. And we'll stay right here, keeping that right hand down on the mat. So wherever you're at in the pose, take a few breaths and bring that gaze forward. And we'll exhale, release that foot back down. Take that hand, placing it back on the mat. And we're gonna pop up on those back toes, lifting that knee. And if we can, straighten back into a plank or onto the knees. Exhale, come all the way onto that mat. Untuck those toes. Inhale, lift that chest. Exhale, down. Inhale, push back to down dog. Take a breath here. And on that next inhale, walk those feet up to those hands. Folding over those legs. And inhale, come all the way up. Exhale the arms down. We'll release those hands. Again, letting them come down by the sides. Close the eyes. Take those deep breaths. Again, using this opportunity to refocus on that breath. Maybe we lost it a little bit there. And we'll slowly open those eyes back up. Take those hands, placing them on the hips. And this time we're going to step that right leg back into that long lunge here. So again, we're on those railroad tracks. So those feet are parallel, that knee is right over that ankle, and those hips are pointing nice and forward. We'll inhale, bring those arms up, palms together. And exhale them right down over that heart. And taking a few breaths here. On that next inhale, we'll pop those hands back up, separating those palms. On exhale, bring those hands back down onto those hips. And rotating that back foot so we're back on that back heel. And those toes are pointing off at that angle. And take those hands, putting them back on those hips, making sure they're nice and forward, and putting that bend back into that knee. Again, you can shorten or widen the stance, whatever is comfortable. And inhale, bring those arms up. And take a few breaths here. And I think I forgot to mention, but of course, if it's too much on that back knee, you can rotate that back foot so it's nice and parallel with the mat. And on that next exhale, dropping that right arm down onto that back side. And again, we're going to kind of shift that left arm up, twisting over, slightly bending back, bringing that gaze up, engaging those abs here, helping that lower back out. And again, if that back bend is too much, we can stay straight up and down. And taking those deep breaths here. On that next inhale, bringing ourselves back up. Bringing that right arm back up. As we exhale, folding over that front leg, popping up onto those back toes. On this next inhale, we're going to step that left foot back to a down dog. And then drop down onto those knees. Tuck those big toes together, sink back over those heels. Oh, I'm sorry, we're coming back up. I forgot a pose here. Come back up onto the hands and the knees. We'll go into a child's pose here in just a second. So we're going to go back to our down dog. Taking that left knee this time, shifting it forward, dropping it down between those thumbs. Sinking back onto that back knee. Untuck those toes. And then again, we can stay right here if we feel that stretch in that hip. Again, we want to keep those hips nice and even, so if we need to tuck that block pillow or anything under that left hip, we can. So if we want to go a little bit more into this pose, we'll bring that right leg up this time. Reach that right hand down or around, taking hold of that foot. Again, you want those toes to come into that wrist, those fingers going back into that ankle. So if we bend that elbow, it's going to be straight up towards the sky. We do not have to put a bend in the elbow. And then we'll hold this wherever we're at, taking a couple breaths. Again, that gaze is forward. And we'll slowly release that back leg, taking that hand, placing on the mat. Placing those toes on the mat, popping that knee up, and starting to shift that left foot back. Now we'll come into that down dog. And then drop down onto those knees. Big toes together. And here's that child's pose, I promised. Letting that forehead rest on the mat. Letting those arms rest. If those shoulders need a break, you can take those arms, let them rest right alongside those legs. Whatever's comfortable right now. Take a couple deep breaths here. Again, always using these resting poses to focus on that breath. We'll take one more deep inhale, exhale. On that next inhale, coming back up on all fours. Untucking those toes, and then placing those toes on the mat, and shift those hips up towards the sky into a down dog. Taking a couple breaths here. On that next inhale, let's walk those feet up to those hands. Folding ourselves over those legs. And inhale, coming all the way up. Bringing those arms. Exhaling them down. We'll release those hands down by the sides. Release those hands down to the hips. We'll place them on the hips. We'll take that left leg, stepping it back nice and long onto the mat. And then rotate that back foot so it's parallel with the mat. Adjust that stance just a little bit so that heel is about in line with the middle of that back foot. With those hands on the hips, shifting those hips over to the side, putting that bend in that front knee. Taking those arms out over those legs. And gaze over that front middle finger and relax those shoulders down the back. Take a couple breaths here. And we'll take that front elbow or front arm, put a bend in that elbow. As we exhale, start to shift ourselves over that front leg, dropping that elbow down onto that knee and bringing that left arm up and overhead. Trying to not put a ton of weight into that front arm so that elbow or that shoulder comes up into the ear, just resting it there. And that gaze can either be down at the foot, at the side, or up at the sky. And take a few breaths. On our next inhale, we're going to push ourselves back to that warrior two, bringing those arms out over the legs. And we'll rotate that front palm so it's facing up towards the ceiling. And this time as we exhale, shifting ourselves back, letting that left arm come on that back thigh. Again, engaging those abs here, helping that lower back bow. And taking those deep breaths. On that next inhale, shifting back over to that warrior two, letting those arms come over those legs. And then we'll slowly start to cartwheel those arms forward, rotating that back foot so we're up on those toes. And step that right leg back into a high plank. So we're going to rotate into a side plank here. So what we're going to do, if we're staying in our plank, we want to make sure that left hand stays under the shoulder. So we can either take that right knee, place it down onto the mat, roll onto the side of that left foot, and then bring that left arm straight up. So our wrist, knee, and foot are kind of all in one line underneath us with that left arm up. Or we can Go straight, rolling over. So we'll start to tip both feet over, lifting that left arm up. Now, wherever you're at, take a few breaths here. We won't hold it for very long. A lot of strength in that shoulder right here, keeping us up. And exhale, bring that left arm down. Coming back into that high plank or onto those knees. Exhale, dropping down all the way onto the mat. Untuck those toes. Inhale, just lift that chest. And exhale, come down. Inhale, go back to that down dog. Taking a breath here. And on that next inhale, walk those feet up to those hands. Folding over the legs. And inhale, come all the way up. Bringing those arms. Exhaling them down. Release those hands down by the sides. Opening those palms nice and wide. Close the eyes. Take a few deep breaths. And using this time to catch that breath if we've lost it. Allowing ourselves to refocus on it. And we'll open those eyes back up. Take those hands, placing them on the hips. This time we're going to take that left leg, stepping it back nice and long on the mat. And then rotating that back foot so it's parallel with the mat. Again, taking a moment to adjust the stance if we need to so that heel is in line with about the middle of that back foot. Taking those hips, rotating them over to the side. Putting that bend into that front knee. And bringing those arms out over the legs. Gaze over that front middle finger. And relax those shoulders down the back. Taking a few deep breaths. We'll put a bend in that front elbow as we exhale, shift ourselves over that front leg, taking that elbow, placing it onto that thigh, bringing that right arm up and overhead. Again, not putting so much weight into that elbow that we're shifting that shoulder up into the ear, just kind of resting it there. And that gaze is either up at the sky, at that side, or down at that front foot. And take those deep breaths. And on our next inhale, shifting ourselves back up to that warrior two, arms over those legs for just a second. And then rotate that front palm so it's facing up towards that ceiling. As we exhale, shifting ourselves back, letting that right hand come on that back side. And bringing that gaze up again, engaging those abs, helping that lower back out. And taking those deep breaths. On that next inhale, shifting back to that warrior two, arms over the legs for just a second. And then slowly start to cartwheel those arms forward, coming down, up onto those back toes, down onto that mat. And stepping that left leg back into that high plank. We're gonna rotate onto that left side. So again, we can drop down onto that left knee, rotating that right foot, and then picking up that right arm. So again, that wrist, knee, and foot are all in a line, coming up with that right arm. Or if we wish to stay up on those toes, we'll just slowly start to rotate those toes over, lifting that right arm up. Again, holding it for just a couple breaths, not too long. And exhale, bring that arm down, rotate back to that plank, drop down onto those knees, untuck those toes, come all the way down onto that mat, turn that cheek, and let that head rest. Bring those arms down alongside, close the eyes, and take a few deep breaths. Taking this time again to refocus on that breath. Catching it if we've lost it. And we'll slowly take those arms or hands, placing them right under the shoulders, starting to lift that face, turning it towards that front, and just coming up onto those hands and those knees, walking the hands back and making our way to have a seat all the way down onto our mats. Taking those legs out straight in front of us, and then just kind of let those legs rock side to side. And then letting them come into center in front of us, rocking ourselves so we are up on those sit bones. We'll take the left leg, placing the foot on the mat. Cross that leg over so that foot's about on the outside of that knee. Sitting up nice and tall. Take a deep inhale. And as we exhale, start to shift ourselves towards that bent leg, taking that right arm, placing it alongside that leg, and bringing that gaze over that back shoulder. And taking those deep breaths. And we'll slowly start to bring ourselves back forward. Uncross that leg. Let those legs rock side to side. And then again, rock up and down so we're on those sit bones. Taking that right foot, placing it on the mat, and crossing it over that leg. Sitting up nice and tall, taking a deep inhale. And as we exhale, twisting towards that bent leg, taking that left hand, placing it alongside that thigh, and bringing that gaze over that back shoulder. And taking those deep breaths. And we'll slowly start to bring ourselves back forward. Uncross that leg. And then rock those legs back and forth. We're going to take both feet, placing them onto the mat. Turn sideways for you guys. Take both feet, placing them onto the mat so they're about that hip distance apart. Take those hands behind you, placing them however is comfortable, so that's facing towards you, facing off to the side, or facing directly behind you. And we're just going to start to put a little bit of weight into the hands and the feet and just lift those hips up. So no matter how high we get, we might just hover off the floor, or if we push and we can get those hips all the way up, bringing that gaze up, we're just going to hold it for a breath. And then exhale, drop those hips back down. Release those hands. Give ourselves a little hug around those knees. Let that forehead come in. And then bring that head back up, release those legs, and start to make our way all the way down onto our mats. We're going to take the feet, keeping them onto the mat, and try to walk the hips as close to those feet as we can get them. And then we'll take those hands, placing them right alongside the body. Keeping those feet, again, nice and flat. As we inhale, we're going to start to lift those hips up towards the sky. And exhale, dropping them back to the mat. And inhale, lift those hips up. And exhale, drop them back down. And inhale, lift those hips up. Exhale, dropping back down. We'll do it one more time. Inhale, lift those hips up. And exhale, back down. We'll take the right foot or ankle, cross it onto that left thigh. Excuse me. Start to lift that left foot up off the mat and start to bring that knee into the chest. And take a hold of that left leg with those hands. So we can either grab behind that thigh, or if we feel like we're going to need a bit more of a stretch, we can take a hold on the outside of that calf on that shin area. And then start to bring the head back down. And then if we don't feel much of a stretch here, you can start to shift that left knee more into the chest, or take the left or right foot and start to push it more down into that left hip. Or just stay right where you're at. Wherever you start to feel that stretch deep in that right hip area, just stay there and take a few deep breaths. Sending all that breath into that hip, allowing it to loosen up. And we'll slowly start to release that left foot back down onto the mat. Uncross that right leg. Let that right leg come all the way down onto the mat and give it a nice little wiggle. And then take that right foot, place it down onto the mat. Take that left ankle, crossing it over that thigh. Lifting that right foot up off the mat. Taking hold of that right leg, wherever we're going to feel that stretch. And then start to bring ourselves back down onto the mat. Again, if we need to feel more of a stretch, we can start to pull that right leg more into the chest or move that left foot down more into that right hip area. Wherever we're at, we'll just start to take those deep breaths. And we'll slowly start to release that right foot back down onto the mat. Slowly uncross that left leg, letting it come all the way down. And give that leg a nice little wiggle. We'll take that right leg, bring it all the way down onto the mat as well. Take those hands up and overhead. And one final stretch, stretching all the way up, all the way down on those legs, full body stretch. Almost like we're just waking up in the morning. And then release it all down onto the mat. Let those legs fall to wherever's comfortable. Take those arms down alongside the body. Start to close the eyes. Start to refocus on the breath. Feeling that breath move in through the nose. Filling all the spaces in the lungs. Moving all the way down to the fingers and toes. And then feeling it leave the body with each exhale. Taking this time to try to clear the mind of any thoughts we might have. Releasing any tension we might be holding in the body. Just watching it all go away with each exhale. Feeling ourselves sink deeper and deeper into our mats. You find that thoughts keep entering your mind. Or maybe you're just having a hard time shutting them all off. Try just focusing on the breath. Maybe counting each inhale or counting each exhale. Remembering this is your time. Time to not have to worry about anything. To not have to think about anything. to just be here with yourself on your mat. Start to bring a little life back into the body by wiggling the fingers and toes. Start to roll the wrists and ankles. Rock your head from side to side. Begin deepening your inhales and exhales. When you feel ready, slowly take one foot, place it on the mat, and follow it by the other foot. And then slowly bring one knee into the chest, followed by the other, taking hold of the legs and rocking side to side. And when you feel ready, roll onto your right side. With your right side grounded by the earth, leaving your left side open to the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the gifts the universe has to offer you today. When you feel ready, slowly come up to a comfortable seated position. We'll take the hands in front of the heart. Close the eyes one last time. Take a deep inhale and exhale it all out. Thank you for sharing your practice with me this evening. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.